But the question is the bill be now read a second time. I call the member for Monero.
Thanks, Speaker. And it's just I wanted to support the bill, obviously. As a veteran of 7 federal or state election campaigns, most of which I've lost, I wanted to just highlight a couple of elements of this. Keep trying. I wanted to just highlight a couple of elements of this legislation that I think are really important, and a couple of things which I think have showed a development. When campaigning for elections and politics has changed a lot in the time that I've been involved. From that first federal election I was involved in 1998 through to 2020, we're heading into 2027. It is something which has, I think, not exactly been all that positive. The rise of social media and various other forms of information gathering that have essentially destroyed our local newspapers that we used to have to spread the news around, have become a source of a lot of information which is not verified and not true, and have weaponised some of the things which, politics has always been tough, and there's always been criticism, legitimate and not legitimate, on all sides of politics. But I think some of the ways that we see it all happen now are a lot nastier. They involve a lot of players who haven't been around in terms of not the major parties, just people who are out to spread misinformation, and that's certainly changed politics. So the two things that I want to highlight in this legislation that are really important, firstly, is the emphasis on electoral education. It's critical that we are out talking to the community about how our democracy works and how our voting system works, to firstly make sure that we have that confidence in our system, which is entirely justified in Australia. And I noted some of the comments from the Shadow Minister around the difference between us and the US system in the way that we have independent operation of our elections, entirely independent operation of elections, entirely independent defining of our boundaries, and just how important that is, and the absolute confidence that people in New South Wales and Australia can have in the operation of our electoral system. So one of the worrying things that we've seen in recent years is talk of people who are bringing in their own pens to the polling booths because they're believing stuff that they see on social media about people rubbing out pencil marks on electoral ballots. Simply doesn't happen. The checks and balances are absolutely tight to make sure that doesn't happen. And that electoral education is really important to make sure that we are giving people the information they need so that when they see misinformation, they can say, look, I know that's not true. Let me go and find the actual source. The other thing I wanted to highlight was this bill starting to address the problems being thrown up by AI in our electoral process. And it's really very simple, and I think the opposition needs to get behind it. Really very simple. If you've created something through AI, then you need to say so that people can actually judge it. So if you do have a picture of Steve Wan as Superman, as the member previously said, doing something like that, then say so. And yes, I will acknowledge that indeed the Leader of the House has created his own AI where he turns into Superman. And I'm sure he wouldn't try and suggest that was real. But we need to make sure that when that's more insidious, when that is something which is designed to spread misinformation about a candidate's position on something, that it is absolutely clear. So while sure, AI might be used to do something which does reflect a candidate's views, that you've got to ask the question, if that's the case, then why wouldn't you use the actual candidate? Why wouldn't you actually use video that you might have of that person, real video, rather than actually creating AI? But this is really simple. Just declare that it's AI creation, and that can actually assist us in trying to start to build awareness of what is real and what is fake. Because I know I'm not the only, I'm sure every member in this place has the people who come into our offices who reflect the fact that there is so much misinformation out there now about a whole range of things in our society. Those people who come into your offices and you will tell them what an actual fact is, and they'll say, no, I've done my research, and I know that I can do this. I know that that I've got protection from the US Bill of Rights, things like that. We hear them all the time. We need to have the tools to actually start to address some of that misinformation out there. And what we're seeing today in this legislation is a small start to that. I think it's a really important start to that. But we also as a society need to be questioning the role that social media and the online resources are playing in our society today. And look, I might be reflecting the length of time I've been involved in this, but it is definitely not overall positive. And we need to get to the situation where people have enough information either from our education of them when they're young to question the sources that they're seeing in social media. This legislation does a bit of that, but our education system can be working on that as well. And I know there is people out there who are providing quite important education for people around how to be questioning in their consumption of social media and the so-called facts that they're being presented with. Now, we are seeing reflected in Australia now the same as we see in the US, where black and white facts can be rejected by a group of people because they don't fit the story they're seeing from the person they support. And that is a really worrying situation that we see reflected in the rise of some of the extreme right parties particularly. But those are tough issues for society to deal with. We can't deal with them all in this legislation, but it's a good start, and I'd certainly thank the Minister for the work that he's done on this, and the Electoral Commission and the staff who've put this together. And I'd certainly encourage all members of this House to support it, in particular those sections about declaring that if something is created by AI, that it has to be declared. I commend the bill.